Hi, everyone. We're a few minutes behind, but we're getting ready to get started. It was raining out there, just in case you were wondering. Thank you for joining. Make sure you share. Our guests will begin in just a few moments. Hearts and Hills is on the radio. Good evening. Thank you for listening to Hearts and Heels, where we talk about everything from your heart to your heels. I'm your host, Shay Robinson. Make sure you stay connected and get connected with us at Hearts and Heels, the number one on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We love to have you as a Hearts and Heels fan. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Happy February. It is the month where we celebrate Black history, we celebrate love. We have all these different celebrations that we have, and we're excited to be in this month. It is great. This year already, we have had National Freedom Day, National Dark Chocolate Day, National Hedgehog Day, National Missing Persons Day, which is today. National World Cancer Day is tomorrow. Later on this month, we talk about heart health. So we got all these different things that are happening. Make sure you pay attention and get involved and get engaged in what's happening. Thank you so much. As we begin this month, we're starting a new series called Love Talks. Because it is the month of February, and it is a month of love where we celebrate the infamous Valentine's Day, and all of us give our hearts away in candy and flowers and all of these things. That is great to talk about that type of love. But in this month, we're going to explore love in so many different ways. It's going to happen over the next few weeks, so make sure you tune in right here at 90.7 WVAS FM at Hearts and Hills every Thursday at 6 p.m. Tonight, we are talking about making peace. That's PEACE with your pieces. PIECES. That's making peace with your pieces. We're talking about this because it's we need to talk about, the first thing we want to start in this series is just talking about self-love and learning to live with your beautiful scars, learning to love yourself, regardless of what your past has been, where you've been, just learning to love. So tonight, that's what this show is all about. Go grab your partner, tell someone, join in the conversation. Um, we cannot talk about loving other people. We cannot talk about loving family, loving spouse, loving your friends, loving your work, loving life if we're not talking about loving ourselves. Because ourselves, we are the most important person in our equation around us. If we're not happy, then the people around us cannot be happy. I think there is great value in starting this series off with talking about loving ourselves so that we can love everybody else. This year alone, we have lost so many people to suicide. Um, I know that you've paid attention to the news. I'm just going to share a few people as we begin this conversation. Ian Alexander Jr., the son of Regina King; Peter Robbins, the original voice of Charlie Brown; Moses J. Mosley, he was a star in The Walking Dead; Chesley Christ, which is a former Miss USA. All of these people have passed this year, and they have passed because of just the heaviness of that life brings us, the brokenness that we experience while we're living this life, the hardships that we feel from the experiences that we have when life beats us down, when life tears us apart, when things rip us apart. We all experience those things. I don't know about you, but I have experienced life in ways that I feel broken and hurt and rejected and unloved by other people. Therefore, I'm bringing those things upon myself, and I'm holding on to those things, and I begin to self doubt, self hate, the lack of self love, and most definitely the lack of self care. Well, tonight we are admonishing you and ask you to make sure that you are taking the opportunities to really focus on who you are, who you're supposed to be, and remember that you're beautiful regardless of what others think, that you have a beautiful personality, that you're a beautiful person, that your life is beautiful. You are needed, you are wanted, you are supposed to be in this world, and that your light, your love, your energy, your freedom, your speech, your everything about you is value, because you were created just for that purpose. I was reading a post by Nick Wingall, and Nick was talking about the reasons why we are so unhappy. And he talked about three different things, and he talked about several different things, but there are three in particular that I want to talk about tonight. That sometimes we just won't let go of resentment, the things that we resented from the past, the people that we resent because they hurt us, they frustrated us, they broke us. Resentment can can put a big hold on our hearts and on our life and on our love, that we just start to rip ourselves apart. I have resented people. You have resented people, and that resentment can bring in other things that we don't think about. And one of the things that really is tied to resentment is your self love, your confidence in who you are. You resent people and things because you feel like it is a knock against who you are and what you are, what you believe, the person that you are. And so he talked about letting go of your resentment, letting go, and that's a lot of forgiveness, that's a lot of um, turning the page, that's a lot of not holding people to things that's in our past, not holding on to those things, not causing people to be held to something that they did to you a long time ago. Things that happened 12, 15, 20 years ago, we have to let those things go. Things that happen in our youth, we have to let it go. People looking at us the wrong way, we have to let it go. People leaving us, we have to let it go. We cannot resent those things. I wish I would have done this. We have to let that go. I wish my life turned out this way. We have to let it go. I wish my family was this. We have to let it go. I wish that I could have done this. We have to let it go. I wish I would have gone to school. Let it go. I wish I would have finished this. Let it go. We have to let those things go that we say all the time, I wish I would have. And for those of us who say, well, I don't have anything that I wish I would have done, you're not being honest with yourself. We all have something that we say, I wish I would have, or I wish life would have turned out different. And I wish this would have happened differently. I wish that we all have that I wish moment that leads to resentment. And all I'm saying is letting go of that resentment can allow you to love and put in new things that you can accomplish. Start your life over. Because if you live in resentment, you live in every day in the past. You're not focusing on your present, and you're definitely not looking in your future, because your energy is wasted on, I wish I would have. I should have done this. If only I could turn back the hands of time. I remember hearing that all the time. And there's a song that talks, if I could turn back the hands of time. The second thing he talked about was we worry about things that we cannot control. There are some things in life that we cannot control. We have no authority over those things. It's life. It happens. Um, so the thing about a lot of us, we have control issues because we love to know when things are happening. We love to plan things out. We love to know when we're going, where we're coming, where it's going. We got to have everything in control. Well, life doesn't always line up that way. So we have to remember that letting go of our control and living, just allowing life to happen for us and live in those moments is one of the best things that we can do. Lastly, we surround ourselves with people we don't like. I'm just talking about things that we do to hurt ourselves, things we do to frustrate ourselves. We surround ourselves with people that we don't like because either we feel like we have to, or they're people that we think are special and they're important, or they have it all together, or they have money. Whatever the excuses are, you hang around these people and accept them in your life, and you don't even like them. You don't like anything about them. They frustrate you. You come home, you talk about them, and underneath, when you're around them, you turn into a different person. All because you're trying to be accepted, and all because we want to fit in, and all we're doing is denying ourselves and taking away from ourselves. So tonight, as we get ready to get into a full discussion about love talks and making peace with your pieces, I'm excited to introduce Miss Gina Richardson, who is sharing with us tonight. Come on, y'all, give her a hand clap out there in the land. She's weathered the storm, and she's here to share some things from her perspective. Thank you, Gina. Welcome to Hearts and Hills.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. Now, tell us a little bit about who you are.
So, my name is Gina Richardson. I'm grown up in Alabama my whole life. I'm a licensed mental health therapist and nationally certified. I have worked with people at the grassroots level, the state level, and national level. I do a lot of volunteer work, and I'm very supportive of for causes that are making a big picture difference.
Now, I know that it's something really special about you, and I love it. I saw your beautiful picture. Tell us about some of your accomplishments that you've had over the past couple years.
So over the past 2 years, as we grow and we evolve, we become professionals of different capacities,
Hmm.
and we take on new challenges and new
Yeah.
avenues. Excuse me. So, the 2018 National Conference of Executives Rising Star, and that was really exciting, just because I felt like, this is really great.
Yes.
Kind of going for this. I've also Brain's Global 500 leader, and I'm currently Miss Alabama for the Global Continental Pageant System.
Wow, Miss Alabama, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. I feel special to have her here, but I do want to get into some deep conversations because you talk about that you're a licensed counselor, and I know you've had so many experiences. And earlier, before you got here, I mentioned about some of the things that happened recently, some of the unfortunate incidents that we've lost some loved ones because of their choices to make. One of the things, as I was doing research, that I found, and I thought it was really interesting, I want to get your thoughts on it, is when you read about the families that deal that are dealing with that loved one that's been taken from them. One of the things they always state is this person has such a light around them. And it was amazing because I did research not just for people that's been in the news recently, but in the past. And that is one of the main comments that I saw, that there was a light around this person. Why is it so hard for us to see the light in ourselves?
That's a really good question, and we we often struggle to see the light, or sometimes even the goodness, because of, number one, what's going on in the world.
Hmm.
There's so much negativity, and there when you're dealing with humans, there's all
Hmm.
these different personalities. But two, some people maybe have a genetic predisposition to act and be a certain way,
Hmm.
and the other thing is, we're growing up in a world. I'm still growing up. I don't know about you,
Yes, I am.
but we're growing up in a world that, and particularly in the Western culture, we don't value individuality as much as would probably be healthy. So we're
Hmm.
trying to take people and put them in a box and put them in a cookie cutter mold. And unfortunately, that's just not the way that it works for our functioning and for us to be happy human beings. Now, don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that, I believe we need policies and procedures and whatnot, certain standards. But when people are, dealing with others, it's very difficult for them to, maybe you're in a good mood at this right now, but
Hmm.
maybe you're a good actor at the same time.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
just got to take things in context.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I felt like with this discussion and thinking about making peace with your pieces, and that's the PEACE with the PIECS, that sometimes, and I can only speak for myself, I have never recognized the beauty that I have or the value that I have because, again, as you stated, that individuality or there's a constant comparison that happens in this world. And I'm not a blamer of social media because I feel like social media has its place, but there are so many different aspects to life that we use to compare ourselves to others, and we think that our light is not as bright, or we're not impacting people, or we're not living that life. And I think that's one of the things that's really hard, about um, living, is that you're always seeking to be like, or to grow in, or to change, or to fit into these spaces when you weren't meant to fit in.
Right, right. And they've recently tried to push forward legislation to do more about, the influence of social media.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, the National Eating Disorder Association has been very, very outspoken on what the effects are on teenagers at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one way that we can help combat some of this.
Yeah, it's really important. Now, there are a few things. So I do want to talk about insecurities. Insecurity is not a good driving partner,
Right.
but why do we always ride with it?
That's a really good question. And if you think about maybe a child,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's just say 1, 2, 3 years old, 4 years old, there are these critical phases and ages for developmental milestones. So we know if a child's not walking by the age of, say, 24 months, then
Mm-hmm.
possibly there's something wrong. So we have really kind of lost sight of our own individual unique worth in many ways, and
Mm-hmm.
we're just being these images of the perfect body and the perfect
Yeah.
face are just really doing so much to damage our self-worth
Mm-hmm.
and our self-image.
Is that so with your competition, is that something that you find a lot that happens in competing in pageantry?
I would think, on the whole, anytime you have a group of women, it's going to be
Well, that's
natural.
true.
You have some who are more, confident, and some who aren't.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it is really amazing. I do want to mention one thing, that I was reading something. Have you ever watched the play Hamilton?
No, maybe we should later though.
Yes, yes. If you've never watched the play Hamilton, it is a really good play. And one of the things, so this, of course, the main character is Hamilton, but there's this scene in this song, and I've always listened to the song, and it says, why did he feel like why was he writing like he's running out of time? And it was talking about Hamilton because supposedly he's supposed to be writing these journals with someone, and he wrote more than half of them. He was supposed to write a third of them, and they were saying that in essence, what they were saying is that he was a manic, like he was constantly trying to accomplish, as if he felt like he did not have enough time. and that he was never going to achieve or accomplish what he thought he was supposed to achieve and accomplish. And as I was looking through some of the research and talking about some of the experiences that people have when they have succumbed to suicide, or they feel depressed because it's depression, or they feel like life is not there. A lot of them feel like I'm running out of time. Like that, there has been a time limit that has been placed on me, and I can't get anything done. Like I can't do this anymore. Like it's I don't know if I can achieve this. I don't know if I'm relevant. I don't know if I'm achieving this life. What do you say to those people that are feeling that way?
Well, it's important to really remember there's so many different contributing factors to somebody, taking their own life or even attempting it. Maybe it's depression, maybe it's they've had a really bad day at work, but there are certain situations and certain things that go on that we as clinicians, if somebody calls us up and they say, I've lost my job, my wife is leaving me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm losing my home. Well, those are three major stressors right there that we typically look out for. And, unfortunately, with people feeling like they're running out of time, the people often kind of goes back to the comparison factor.
Mm-hmm.
What is she accomplishing that I'm not accomplishing? Or Susie Q down the street. And we live in a
Mm-hmm.
culture of keeping up with the Joneses. And we have so many households who are in debt right now because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And the fact of the matter remains that at the end of the day, they've got to take a step back and
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm me. And I do this a lot with myself. Where am I? What am I doing? Where am I at right now? And then I'll pinch myself. So it kind of brings me back to the here and now. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we haven't taught a lot of our children to do that.
No.
We haven't.
And I think we give them
We
milestones.
give them cell phones
We do give them cell
and they
phones,
look up things.
and we give them milestones. I think we say by this age you should be accomplishing this. By this age you should be accomplishing that. And when you get closer to those ages, you think to yourself, I hadn't accomplished anything. So it's like you missed this standard, this unspoken standard, and it's really not a standard.
Right.
Achievement can happen at any time, but unfortunately, we've been cloning our children or even ourselves, because I don't know, I'm getting closer to an age group, and I keep thinking to myself, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what age, 20, 30, whatever you want to say.
Anything.
Yes, I'm getting closer to that age group. I keep thinking about, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to accomplish this. I don't know if I'm going to do this. And I was reading where one article a couple years ago, as a matter of fact, several different people mentioned that the list where the 20 for 20, the 20 under 20, the 30 under 30, the 40 under 40, the 50 under 50, that was so much pressure for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it.
Well, milestone birthdays are typically very stressful for anyone. So
Yes.
anytime a person has right at a milestone birthday, maybe they're struggling with something, then just kind of FYI, that's another thing to look out for. And
Really.
with women, again, we live in a culture where we compare ourselves to each other. Now, slight digression, I've never really been one of those that does compare myself to my peers. I'm comparing myself to those women who are 20 and 30 years older than me
Hmm.
because I'm looking more toward, orientation for the future and that kind of thing. And then if we're all comparing ourselves to maybe Susie Q, who developed nice breast, for example, and we don't know if she's been augmented or not.
Right.
So we really don't know if it's smoke and mirrors or not. But those milestone birthdays, those life stressors, divorce, relocation, a job is
Hmm.
incredibly stressful. And I can tell you from personal experience, I have moved in this state several times to just, new cities where I didn't know anyone. I always in advance try to have like a support system of some sort, or whether it's like a civic group
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, because my older half brother committed, he took his own life, he committed suicide. And so I'm very cognizant of that fact, and I try to take care of myself as much as possible. But, I've also had a little bit different experiences than some people,
Mm-hmm.
and I tend to think things through a little bit more.
What was the healing like for you in dealing with that with someone that was immediate, your immediate family member? What was some of the healing process for you?
The I would have to say it's never a complete healing,
Mm-hmm.
because there's always some type of trigger that happens on a daily basis, and whether it's like an odor, or our odor, when we smell something, it what does it take us back to grandmother's kitchen, or that
Right.
our favorite wet dog when we were
Mm-hmm.
5, we throw them in the bathtub with us. Maybe that was just me. But the healing process, I would have to say, is an ongoing thing, number one. Number two, when I can feel like I'm able to make a difference for others.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds a little bit codependent, if there's any
Yeah, it does.
clinicians listening to this. But I know that I'm taking my story, I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking those lemons, and I'm making lemonade. So I think of it like I went through this to give back, instead of becoming this jaded old woman that just sits around and cross stitches all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Not that anything's wrong with that, but I'm giving back. I'm healing through the ongoing ability to make the world a better place.
Mm. What are some of the things that you've seen that has been really hard for people to live with?
I would have to say people who have dealt with very, very traumatic experiences. Now, 10, 15 years ago, we didn't hear the word trauma very often. I have a master's in counseling, and I think we just, I know we discussed it some. But in 2015, when I took my first CEO position, that's around the time that there was such a big focus on this word trauma.
Mhm, mhm,
And at that point, I mean, and granted, they've known trauma was a big deal, but that's when it became, the daily discussion. You hear people talk about, I'm traumatized, or I'm feeling triggered. And, those buzzwords weren't out there. They weren't
mhm,
part of our daily, vocabulary until just a few years ago. So if a person is exposed to an early childhood experience where it causes a lot of trauma, unfortunately, their brain may not develop right.
mhm,
And that's we see often in people maybe that are abused sexually or physically, if they don't have enough food to eat, that type of thing. And I'm the world's biggest advocate. I believe we have to put money in social programs that are treating the here and now, but let's start doing that for the younger generation,
mhm,
and really give them role models and something to look up to, because we're walking around with, these generations of people that have all this baggage, and you're creating more people with the same baggage because we
mhm.
haven't broken the cycle. So until we break the cycle, we're just going to continue on trending with
Yes.
like hashtags on Twitter, you know?
We're good at that. That's the generational curse and
Right.
generational blessing. So it's just stopping. How would we stop that? Because you said something really powerful. If we start with the youth, then we're trying to break the cycle, but they're still living and dealing with the brokenness from
Hmm.
that person. So how would we really impact that, in your opinion?
The It's so important for us to just take a step back and think about, you know, as adults, it's so easy to get in your day to day routine of, I don't, here's the TV and here's your phone, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But we have to teach children to think, abstractly, and think about other things from another point of view. Now, there's just certain critical ages where they, develop those skills,
Mhm.
but take a step back and let them focus on that. It's not all about them. And we see the numbers recently as far as like civic groups and volunteerism,
Right.
that's trending downward. That's not how we need to go. We need to start trending upward. And one of the things that I've always been really big on is like youth empowerment and working with kids to
Hmm.
develop those leadership skills, those critical thinking skills. So we can either be, proactive or reactive.
Yeah, I think we're tired.
Yeah.
I think COVID has impacted us way more than what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we realize how tired we are.
It affected our mental health in ways we never thought possible.
Mm,
We never expected all these high profile celebrities to start coming out and sharing their experiences.
mm-hmm,
And unfortunately, when it's, we praise them for coming out and they're our role models, but what about, say the sexual assault victim who is just now sharing their story at, 43 years old or 44, it takes people sometimes years to come out.
mm-hmm,
So instead of praising them, instead of empowering them, we're beating them down,
mm-hmm.
you know?
I was just watching the U.S. Olympic story about the gymnast and that
Mm-hmm.
whole the sexual abuse that happened within that. And I remember one of the young ladies she talked about how when she came out that people were like, oh, you just mad because you weren't
Mm-hmm.
good enough, oh, you just, I mean, it was just such this negative feedback. And I think the title of the documentary is Athlete A, because Athlete A didn't want to be known because other people had come out before and it was so negative, so she wanted to keep her identity private. But at the court arraignment she came out and said who she was, which was a prominent gymnast. But it, I was really shocked by the amount of attack
Mm-hmm.
that they receive because I am now at 35 this understood that that was wrong, because when I was 12, 13, I was processing it. I kind of felt like it was wrong. I kind of been dealing with it all my life. But at this point, I have reconciled. I love that word reconcile. Y'all know this. I have reconciled that I'm okay to talk about this now. I'm okay to face this now. I'm okay to let someone know that this has happened to me. And I think that again, that's another part that makes it really hard for people to really love themselves, for people to be willing to express themselves, because people are not accepting.
Right. They're not accepting. They we Women are the world's worst about beating each other down over and over and over again. In some of the most horrible things. At least with men, they go out and they, beat the mess out of each other for about 10 minutes and it's over with. Women were constantly, knife after knife after knife in our back, and
Yeah.
after so long, it starts to hurt and we just bleed. And I can say, I am a sexual abuse survivor. And when I started sharing some of my story with people here in the Montgomery area, because I started speaking out at age 15.
Mm.
So it's not anything for me to get up and, talk in front of people about it. And when I started sharing some of my story with people here in the Montgomery community, I thought these individuals were my friends. And unfortunately, I was very shocked at their response to the whole thing and the way that they treated me. And this is something that I'm sure I haven't discussed it since I've known them, but I mean, I can go back on record since age 15 and, we got it there. So I was just really shocked. And
Yeah.
I can't say it took me back in some ways, but I felt again like I was 12 or 15 years old. I was
Mm-hmm.
that little girl, kind of sitting in class going, why are they talking about me? Not that,
Mm.
we
Mm-hmm.
all wondered that at
Mm-hmm.
some point when we were little girls. So, it was bullying. We bully each other,
Yeah.
for the stupidest things. We should be empowering each other and uplifting each other, not
Mm-hmm.
beating each other down. It's absurd.
So, one of the one person that I was reading a letter from one of the young men, and he said, "No one cheers your accomplishment on. The ones that you think." will cheer your accomplishments are the ones who tear you down.
Hmm.
And that hurt him the most as part of his letter that he shared with someone.
Right. And especially family members.
Oh,
If
that's
if
good.
somebody is a member of a dysfunctional family and they are a person who has spoken out and said, maybe they say built that courage to just walk away and say, Mom, I think you're borderline personality. Dad,
Mhm.
I think you're a narcissist. Which, by the way, they couple. Okay, they usually date each other.
Hmm.
But if you have a coupling of those two personalities, for example, and then you have a somewhat healthy child that one day wakes up, maybe if they've gone off to college and they see what normal is, and they say, I think we need to sit down and have a family intervention, more than likely that child's going to be scapegoated. And if
Mhm.
that child has, say, siblings, and they go to their siblings and they say, we kind of have a toxic family, let's improve those things, the family's going to turn against that child. That's just the dysfunctional family system of what happens.
Mhm.
There's a reason I did not go into marriage and family therapy, because it's actually, even though I'm qualified to do it, it's so much more systems based,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what I studied in undergraduate. But the dynamics of those ongoing family, I don't want to say secrets, but those ongoing, like, sick
Yeah.
families, it impacts people for years and years to come, like the generational curse we hear in
Mhm.
Christianity.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I really think plague most of our families are those secrets because we don't want to talk about it. I remember being in the midst of my mom and her siblings at one point, and they started to talk about some things they had never talked about before. And it was just in the midst of, they were older, they were wiser, but when I say they were older. Their kids have kids. And I was listening to them, just really share the secrets. And I was thinking to myself, they have been living with this
Right.
all their lives. And it explains so much dysfunction. And it really gave clarity to the way they responded in some ways that I don't think they really understood. And and so I wonder at what point will we stop allowing the secrets to will we stop allowing secrets to be secrets and we reveal them? Why is it that we keep the secrets?
I've often wondered that myself, and I do believe with the younger generation,
Hmm.
the younger generation. I believe that they're changing the paradigm. There's a paradigm shift because of them, and I don't necessarily, personally, I'm not going to go get on TikTok and tell all my business, because one of my favorite sayings is keep it classy.
Hmm.
But that generation is really making a difference with speaking out for their mental health and advocating for themselves. And one thing I was so impressed with about this time last year and even a few months before is there are older adults like me that want to mentor these kids, and they don't call themselves advocates. I call myself an advocate, but they call themselves activists. And I just like stopped and thought, whoa, that's like something you would hear in the '60s. That's some Woodstock
Hmm.
type thing. That's when all things really started to
Right,
change
right.
culturally. But there was this one kid in the group because he wanted me to mentor him, and this kid started his own nonprofit, all these other things. Honestly, because he was underage, I kept ignoring his messages, and he by God, he found me on every social media site. And then I
It's like I
realized,
got to get connected.
I was like, this kid wants to make a difference.
Hmm.
So I believe that the younger generation is really going to do it. But also, we've got to remember that it's okay for people to speak out and talk. Join advocacy groups. Go. This is the big thing. You don't like it, don't vote him in office. That's, I mean, that's from grade one on up to the White House.
Yeah,
Get out there and make a
that's
difference.
a whole different story because people are a lot of people are, they are close to their party lines.
Right.
They don't look at the issues, they don't pay attention to the things that are happening, and they vote according to party lines. They don't vote according to values,
Right.
and that's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah. It's just, at the end of the day, we're people. And, I believe we have to agree to disagree, but this, the vision we see right now is just going to have a trickle down effect. And having been in leadership positions, but also having been a therapist, it's almost like it's two different things because,
Hmm.
as a leader, you probably will have to go, pardon my French, bust some balls. And then as a therapist, you're wanting to heal.
Hmm.
So at the same time, I take a step back and I go, yeah, well, this is black, that's white, but you combine them, it's gray.
Hmm.
And so I really think that we've got to understand that we don't have an absolute sometimes. There's only one absolute.
Hmm. Hmm. When we talk about the broken pieces in life, like um, and I thought about it as, when we're born whole, then life just starts to shatter us into these different pieces, from abandonment, rejection, abuse, lack of love, all these different things. How do we manage all the competing pieces that are really tearing us up inside?
One of my favorite things I remember from undergraduate at the University of Alabama
Roll Tide.
was Roll Tide and War Eagle, if there's any former fans out there. It's called Tabula Rasa, and it means blank slate. So when we look at kids, it's just important for us to remember that they're a blank slate and let's write the good things on the slate. But as far as managing the brokenness that we feel, I know for me, I would have to say my volunteer work, giving back, that type of thing has really helped heal me as a person and allowed me to do so many things that I never thought I would do because I'm giving back. I'm healing myself and still healing myself
Mhm.
through that giving back. Now, not everybody would feel that same way, but I'm just the world's biggest advocate for volunteerism and serving the community. And I know that, yeah, not everybody is they're probably rolling their eyes when they hear me say that, but there's something very therapeutic about helping others in that way.
Is it, but I feel like it may be hard for some people to do it because they are hurt, so like it's like, no, I'm hurting, so we become really selfish.
Hmm.
So how do they push past that selfishness? Well, it's not really selfishness. How do you push past that place that holds us back and keeps us from moving forward? I mean, jumping forward, because I can imagine there have been times where I felt really broken, and I felt like I can't give myself to anybody else because I'm so broken.
Right. And that's unfortunately a very common reaction with human beings. I can say from my personal experience, and I didn't want to make this about me, but I feel like my story is so unique that I made sure not to repeat the same mistakes my parents made.
Hmm.
Lord forgive me, Dad. He was married 6 times that we
Hmm.
know of, and my mother was married four. And they were both very, very attractive people. But when you grow up like that as a child, there was the odds that I would probably repeat the same behavior. If I promised myself a long time ago that if I got up to like four marriages and I hadn't had any kids, that was maybe God's blessing. you know, because I'm not breaking, another person and them seeing that. And in order to move past some of those things, it involves a lot of deep work and ultimately forgiveness. And
Mm,
it's so hard for us to do that.
it is.
Now, also, I'm the world's biggest advocate for emotional support animals.
Mm.
You know, I did a panel about a year and a half ago, and I watched it later, and I thought, did I just really say that? But it was one of the funniest things I think I've ever heard come out of my mouth, and it was that. And what I said was, you know, if you need to heal and you don't have anybody out there, you know, go get a dog, you know, support
Mhm.
dog, support cat, support turtle, whatever you need.
Just support.
There's an animal out there for everybody. Birds,
Mhm.
you know.
So I'm not an animal fan. That was one. My husband
Do you
loves
like
animals.
rocks?
You know what? For me, it is. It's gonna sound really crazy, but it's just water.
Fish.
I love the sound of water. No, I
Okay.
just I just love the sound of water. Like that is my thing that helps me to bring a little peace to my mind, because I think another thing about being broken is that your mind is always moving.
Mhm.
Like you are always, because you don't want to stay in that place that you're in. So you're always trying to think of something to do something and be here. Um, just recently, I dealt with COVID, and one of the things that it made me realize is that I struggle with being alone.
Mhm.
It was my revelation, and I was sitting in my place and I was like, oh my gosh, I struggle with being alone. And just in that moment, God started healing me with it, because I really laid it to him. I really gave it to him, and I had to become one. Now since that time, I have been alone and I've been okay. Now this a recent, so don't this is just phase one. I'm probably gonna have like 15 phases of this. But I say that because I think we sometimes we look for bigger successes, and we have to take the smaller ones. Like you can't, it's like a piece of glass. If you get a mirror and it breaks into 15 pieces. You
Mhm.
can't gather all the pieces at once to try to put it together. You have to go piece by piece by piece
Right.
in order to heal it together. So my success is that I put a piece together.
Mhm.
Like I got another piece now, and maybe some other stuff around me. This piece of paper, it may be a scratch over there, but I did get these two pieces together. It's like the big puzzle. When you get 100-piece puzzle, you'd be excited to just get one little piece done, and that's what we have to do when we think about our pieces in life that's been shattered, or things that happen to really break us and complicate us, and make us feel unworthy, and make us feel like we can't love ourselves, or we're not worthy enough, and life is more valuable without me in it. That's not true.
Right.
That is not true. That is the trick of the enemy. That is your you allowing your hurt um, to weigh more than your love.
Mhm. Exactly. Yes. No, you're right.
Yeah, so I just want to encourage everybody out there that this is the opportunity to really focus on um what is your definition of love? Like, how do you challenge yourself to love yourself in the way that you love everybody else? Like we get so focused on, oh, I love my husband or my wife. Oh, I love my kids. Oh, I love, especially women, we give
Mhm.
to everybody else. So I wonder if we all spent the same amount of energy given to ourselves, what would happen?
You know, that's a really good point, and a lot of people don't think of it that way. But we can't love others until we start loving ourselves.
Right.
I mean, really, that's all it comes down to.
Right, and that's the whole thing with healing, is that you acknowledge where you're broken, acknowledge where your hurt is, acknowledge um, that you feel insecure,
Hmm.
acknowledge that you're not getting what you're giving, acknowledge those things, and I have, this is just me, I have started writing what I feel like I'm lacking.
Do you journal?
No,
on a daily basis.
I don't.
One of the most therapeutic things I do believe anybody can ever do is journaling.
I have like 50 of them, and so I start writing in one and then start writing the other.
I do the same thing. You know, do the same thing. It's okay. That's normal.
Thank
But
you, because you
consistent.
look. She just healed me because I'm like, oh, it's stuff everywhere. I can't keep doing this. But it's and so acknowledge your brokenness by journaling. And again, I am an advocate of writing what is broken,
Mhm.
writing what you're feeling, and don't apologize for it. Don't think about it and try to make it pretty. Just write it.
Mhm.
Like sometimes we can get so wordy and want to get flowery. No, just write what the issue is. Write what you're feeling, because that within itself is acknowledgement.
Right. Physically right.
Yes,
Pen, paper,
right.
tablet, floor, chalk, whatever, but not type. It's not quite the same thing.
Oh, that's their
it's
computer,
not quite the
telephone.
same thing.
Don't get on your cell phone trying to put in your notes.
Don't
Right.
do that. We'll physically write it. I mean, it does something to our brains, and I'm not just making up some psychobabble here.
Hmm.
It physically does something to our brains when we write out. We retain it a lot longer. And so, if you're looking at wanting to heal, does it make sense to type it and look at that screen that
No.
maybe is making you go blind, or physically write it out? I always tell people this is a start point. This is where the bad is, here and here. And when you write, you're taking it and it's going out that arm, whichever one. Maybe you write with your toes. Some people do. I don't know.
Hmm.
But whatever body parts you use to write, and put it in that paper, and that paper is doing the healing, so to speak.
Hmm.
Just give it away to the paper.
Now, the second thing I'm going to tell you to accept your pieces. Like you can't accept your brokenness. Now that you've acknowledged it, accept it.
Hmm.
This is what I deal with. This is what I've struggled with. These are things I'm hurting from. These are things I feel like I'm lacking, and just accept it. Be okay with it. Everybody's hurt from different things. Everybody's struggling and dealing with different things. And then let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Just let go.
Let it go. Because think about this. This is the thing. When you if you have glass and it's broken and you put it in your hand, you can't clutch it, because if you clutch it, then it cuts your hand. You can't hold it for a long time because you get those little pieces in. And that's what happens. That's an example of what happens in our lives when we're broken, when we're hurt. We hold on to it so much that we start getting little pieces of glass, and we gotta get tweezers out. I mean, just little things start sticking. So let it go. And the last thing I want to share with you, because we're almost out of time, is that pieces can be mended. Like whatever you're going through, healing, whatever the brokenness that you're going through, it can be mended. Gina, do you have anything you want to end today with as we close out today's show, Making Peace with Your Pieces?
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes.
It was so good to come out and drive through this monsoon. That I did not know it actually flooded so bad over
Yes,
here in
it
this part
did.
of Montgomery. But if anybody would, they've had questions, if they'd like to reach out to me. Now, bear in mind, I'm very careful with some of the things that it was for my messages because on social media. But reach out to me, Gina Gena D Richardson. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn,
All the above.
all of them. And just I try to post things that deal with mental health, but when you watch them, it's not quite so obvious. So yeah, reach out.
Well, reach out to Gina. Thank you for tuning in. This series this month we're talking about love talks. Next week we have love talks with the LGBTQ plus community. So make sure you tune in as we explore love, and we talk about some things, and we're gonna hash it out. And I'm excited about that show. Then the following week we have some more great guests, because we want to talk about love in all the ways and space and places that it happens. Now, remember, whatever you do, do it with all your heart. And if you can't put your heart in it, put your heels on it, and walk away. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, Hearts and Heels this time at 6 p.m. See you guys.